Right, well, let's start with your why for competing in HYROX or anything that you do. What's like the why and the motivation behind it?
Man, it just comes back to our core message from Mega. It's what Meg and I do is just it's to show to ourselves that we're capable of more. And then when you do that for yourself, it just resonates with a lot of other people as well. So when we first found the sport, we didn't know anything about it. We actually found out about it through a mate of ours, Ben Halden, over in the UK. And it was our last stop of this 8-month trip. And he said, surely you guys are doing HYROX. And we hadn't heard about it. And then we came back the week afterwards and it happened to be in Melbourne. So it's not like we had big plans to go into roll into the sport or do anything. Like we just wanted to rock up, see what it was about. But it was one of those things that once we actually did one of them, we realized how much fun it was and how much room the sport had to grow. And like it was just a place for us to be able to really prove to ourselves like how capable are we? How hard can we take this? And definitely like go on to worlds and definitely getting a scratch at Worlds, even though we didn't get to do the time we wanted to do. That really kicked us into gear to think that we haven't even scratched the surface of what we could do. And it's just a great avenue to actually prove to yourself like how hard you can go at something.
Nice, nice. What is your sporting background? Like, obviously, for people that don't know, like I think I'm right in saying that you qualified for the worlds in that first race, didn't you? And then
Yeah.
you and Meg won your age group at the worlds in your second
Yeah.
race, basically. So obviously, very quick. What is your sporting background? What have you come from?
Man, it's not HYROX. My sporting background's big wave surfing and big mountain skiing. So it's all been extreme sports. I've never done like high level competitive sports in a conventional setting before. So I definitely pushed the skiing pretty hard. Competed 1 year in that for big mountain skiing, and then just the surfing something we just did for fun. But I was in business. Like I just ran in companies from my early 20s all the way through. So I didn't really make any time commitments to be able to go hard enough at any sport to take it to any level. But man, we were running a fair bit at the time. We'd had the run clubs, Mega Run, that was running around the world. So we are running a little bit. But man, Meg carried that first race, as in her conditioning from sports aerobics and her whole hybrid style of training she's done for the past 10 years. Like, man, I was dying in that first race. Um, yeah, I guess my background in just enjoying running and HYROX is a runner's race, so that definitely helped a lot.
Okay, okay. What is your? I've listened to you on another podcast. Can you talk a little bit about your business background? You had a fairly successful business when you were younger, did you?
Yeah, I mean, I was in business for over 10 years with my younger brother. Like, we were just best mates. We did everything together. Mate, we started off. We ran all the Brisbane. We ran all the Brisbane's underage parties, which was a shocking introduction to business because it was just classic supply and demand, and there was a lot of demand and not much supply. So we just thought like, how easy is business? But then that got shut down with new party laws. The government brought out new party laws because there were people throwing some rogue parties, getting 1,000 people rocking up to abandoned houses and then just taking people's money and bailing. So that was our first real business, was running parties and all of Brisbane's underage parties in Brisbane. But we had a legit setup. We had a legit company, insurance and security and everything else like that. So we ran that really well, but the new laws just made it too hard to operate. Then we moved from that into gardening, and we're doing that while we were at university. But then we grew the gardening business into a landscape business, and then that was our main company through our 20s. And then from there, we grew that to like that business. All those businesses are still operating now. So about 60 staff in the construction industry, and then that naturally just went into property, and we started to invest in other businesses. But yeah, our core business was landscape construction, and the business is still going now, still going really well. But I was in that for almost 9 years.
Okay, is that something you're still running now yourself as well?
Oh, so no, my brother runs that business, all of our developments in property and all the other companies that we had. So he's running all those now. But after COVID, I made a big shift. A few years after COVID, I just realized that as successful as the businesses were, I just wasn't loving it like I used to when I was younger. I had two back operations as well, which definitely brought that to the forefront, which was there's just no amount of money you can be given to sell your body.
Mm.
And I was just running myself into the ground landscaping because I ran all the operations. So I was on site a lot, and because we just did a good job. Like I could not have the business do a good job. So you find yourself on site all the time, still digging holes, still helping the guys out, moving big trees. And it was just bad on my back. So after my second back operation from a L5 S1 bulge disc, I was like, I've just got to do something else that isn't in this space. I just needed to tax my body to make money. But what I actually realized through that time was, and it's actually a big issue that I'm seeing in HYROX right now, and I'm seeing across a number of different sports categories, is people have back issues everywhere. And what I actually found out was, and I worked with a good mate of mine who owns the business Science of Fitness. I spent well over $15,000 with specialists and everyone trying to fix my back before I had surgery. And then when I came out of it, no one could figure out exactly what was the cause of it. They were just all symptom based. And then, mate, within 1 minute of just being put on the ground, and he just said, do this exercise, do this one exercise, and I couldn't do it properly. And he said it's a muscle sequencing issue. So yeah, we're actually working on some programs right now that are part of our new app, the Train to Go app. That's going to be fully based around muscle and back rehab and back recovery, because most people don't even realize that the reason why their backs are so sore and so bad is just because they have a muscle sequencing problem, which means that whenever you move, you should fire your deep core and your glutes first. They should be the first things that always fire. But it's very hard to actually know if you are or aren't doing that. And so most people, whether you're just at an office job or if you're going full-time in HYROX, if you're not recruiting your core and your glutes first for all your movements, that means by default, you're using your hamstrings and your lower back. And that is what's causing the majority of people's back discomfort and back issues. Now, there's always underlying and genetic things and things like that, but generally across the board, it's a muscle sequencing issue 9 out of 10 times as to why people have bad backs, especially when it comes to slipped and bulge discs. So yeah, I mean, that was a soft point for me. I couldn't walk for 6 months. I went into surgery. It was like the recovery was pretty solid, just even on a bulge disc. Initially, when I first saw the surgeons, they were telling me I had to replace my discs and get a spinal fusion. I had to stop big wave surfing. I had to stop skiing, and it was pretty bad. But yeah, man, it's just like since I've got out of those companies and since met Meg, got married with Meg, and we've just been full time into the health and fitness space. Like I'm pushing my back harder than I've ever pushed it before. And I'm able to do that because I fixed my muscle sequencing. So that's been the transition from business into sport. But yeah, before HYROX, Meg and I were just loving endurance running. We were into ultras and we didn't really like the training. I don't know if have you done an ultra before?
No, 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 no.
The,
I was
the,
I
the
was I was
training,
more of a sprinter when I was younger, so like 200 meters was quite long for me, to be honest.
well, man, like sprint training's fun, right? You're on the
Yeah.
track, you're doing drills, you're around people. Training for ultras, like it sucks. It's not very fun at all. So we didn't really do too much of the training side. We did more of like the conditioning side to get in the gym to get your legs conditioned, and we did a fair bit of running, but not long distance stuff. But we were attracted to the mental game of ultra distance running. So we did 100, we did a 30, which wasn't ultra, that was just a longer race. And we did 100, then we did 100 miles. And we did a whole series of them overseas testing our socks out. But then man, when we found HYROX, it was just such a well put on sport. You could just tell as soon as I walked in, because I had a background in construction. I walked into the first event with Meg and I'm tapping her. I'm like, yo, have you seen how the zip ties are put on the fences here and how all the boards are taped down? As in, because I'm background in construction. You could just see by the level of detail that got put into every event that as soon as I saw it, I just thought, wow, this is a really well put on business. And I didn't really know that much about it. And then, I mean, you've been to it, you're in the sport heavily. If your start time's at 12 o'clock, you're running at 12 o'clock.
Oh,
And they're putting 6,000 competitors through a day. So yeah, mate, just being a part of that. There you go, here's Meg.
Oh, hello, sorry to interrupt.
It's bringing me some food. But yeah, mate, just being a part of a sport that's so well organized and so put together. Man, we just cracked the timing of it. Like everything in life comes down to timing, right? And
yeah.
just Melbourne happened on, and we just locked in. And I'll be the first to say, as in we got very fortunate with the run that we had, as in the competition in Australia wasn't very stiff. Like Worlds is Worlds. Like I'm happy that we went over and we did what we did at Worlds. That was great. But the competition wasn't very solid in Australia at the time because it was the second race of Australia. So I think that first time we did was like a 58 high or something. Wasn't anything too flash. But it's good to see now that the competition has gotten way higher. And some of the best athletes now are coming out of Australia.
Oh yeah, definitely. You can see, like, even from where I'm sitting, like, you can see how much it's grown in Australia, and the quality over there is huge now.
Man, it's like it's once it hits Instagram, it just blows up. Like the thing was running. So COVID hit, it was like if you weren't at a run club, if you weren't running, you weren't on Instagram. And then it got into ultra running. It's like you have to do an ultra to be cool in the fitness space on Instagram. And man, now it's HYROX. HYROX is the thing. Whereabouts are you based in Australia?
No, I'm not in Australia. I'm in the UK. I'm in the UK, but
Like,
we like
your accent isn't even that strong. Do you know Ben Halden from the
I know
UK?
who he is. Yeah, I know who he
Mate,
is.
if you put you two side by side, like he's got an accent, as in he's got a proper accent. Your accent doesn't even sound that strong. Right. Well, I mean, you guys know what it's like in the UK. It is pumping over there. But the Gold Coast, I'd say, would be because I'm from the Gold Coast. I'd say that's the stronghold in Australia for fitness right now. And man, every gym here, every group class session has got some sort of element where they're talking about HYROX. So at the sport is pumping. I think Brisbane, the next race is almost sold out. And then you just got to see how hard people are going for tickets that didn't book early enough. As in the spectator tickets are selling out. People are
Yeah,
online trying to buy secondhand spectator tickets. It's just. Did you see the videos of Tia's last race? Tia did her first
yeah.
race with James. I couldn't race, but it was cool because I got to watch. I reckon it's better watching. I got to watch my men's partner Nick race with my wife Meg, and man, that was six spectators deep on every exercise station. I've never seen HYROX so busy anywhere around of any of the races we've done. So, man, Australia has taken to HYROX very heavily, and I think it's going to be one of the strongest places in terms of competitors.
Yeah, nice. Tell me about as well. Like, I know you guys have been to the US recently, and you raced in Dallas. And you were actually in the race with Nick Bear and others. How was that race for you? How was it against the guys that you were against? I think Rich Ryan and Dylan Scott were in the race as well.
Yeah, so I know Dylan. Dylan's a good dude. A bit of trash talk with Dylan coming into the race, but I mean, look, America as a trip was phenomenal. Was phenomenal. We had such a good time over in America. Meg and I, we're heavy into Christianity. We're massive believers in Jesus, and just the faith levels in Austin and the churches over there, and just the people we met were just incredible. I've never seen anything like it. And everyone was just so welcoming over in America because they definitely have a culture, especially also amongst the Christians, is that everyone just wants to help each other. So we just came over there and we got looked after so incredibly well we didn't know anyone. I think we knew one person over there and we ended up meeting just so many quality people. But as in terms of the race, like I'll be honest, that it was so bad. I was the fittest we'd ever been coming into America. We actually weren't even planning on racing in America. We were planning on racing in Beijing and then doing another solo race in Melbourne. But then when they announced the pairs, the Elite 15 pairs event was going to be in Melbourne, it was on at the same time as a solo race. And we still hadn't done two individual races to have a crack at Elite 15. So the whole idea of going to America was to go and find two races to race for the Elite 15 so we could also then have a crack at the Elite 15 pairs in Melbourne. Mate, we just got unfortunate. I got, and it was my fault. I got the flu pretty badly the week before in America, and then I passed it on to Meg. And mate, that race was the hardest race I've done physically ever. Just because I convinced myself that I wasn't as sick as what I was. And then mate, I've learned the hard way now twice not to race sick because then after I raced, then I got way worse. And then I got pneumonia. We didn't even get to race our second race in Anaheim. And then we pulled our trip and came back. But yeah, I can't say it was a great race to look back and enjoy on, but it was one of those races. Like I did such an average time. I did like a 106 high, which was definitely not what I've been training for. But I just got to the point in the race where I just said to myself, I'm not quitting on this race. Like I could have just pulled out earlier, and it probably would have been smarter for me to pull out earlier. But it was just one of those races where I just said, like I'm locking in. I'm getting this race done. There's just no way that I'm pulling out. And I just didn't have it. I just didn't have that fifth gear. The flu gets you really badly, and HYROX is not a race you can hide in. Like I went from fourth place to 12th place halfway through the lunges to the finish. I just got smashed. So that was a bit disappointing. And then I obviously felt for Meg because I made Meg sick. But like, well, you can't complain about getting sick in sport. It's just what happens. If you're at your peak fitness, you're also at your peak susceptibility for getting sick. And we decided to roll the dice and travel to America. And sometimes you race and you're not sick and you're healthy and you smash it. And other times that you're sick and the race doesn't go too well. So yeah, you can't just celebrate when things are going your way. You got to give glory at all times, whether it's going your way or not. So to race against Nick, I mean, we got to meet Nick. There was a very cool event in Austin, Texas the week beforehand. It was put on by Meat Mafia. And it was I've never seen an event like it. They had 6 speakers at a live podcast. So there was a catch, guest, speakers getting filmed. Then behind that was a crowd of, say, 40 people. So they do the interview and then they throw it to the crowd and ask questions. And so met Nick there. Nick crushed the interview or the podcast. And it was cool because you rocked up on race day. Then so Meg and I, we have the business Mega, and we just make incredible running socks. We designed a running sock that doesn't give you blisters and doesn't smell. And it was just cool to rock up on race day and see Nick in the warm-up area in the socks. And I was like, dude, you got the socks on. And he said, man, I ran in these things once and I know they're the real deal. So it was cool to see Nick in them. It was cool to see Dylan in them. It was there's a whole stack of people, even over in America, all rocking the socks. So that was definitely a good highlight to be over there to see that the brand's growing and that people are actually wanting to invest in quality gear. But as far as the race, man, it was literally the hardest thing physically I'd done in any aspect before, just getting to the end. I had the lady at the wall balls. She was holding me up from, I guess at one point I almost fell over. She was so nice. She was like putting pressure on my back to make sure I didn't tip back. But man, like it sucked. I had some humble pie. I went all the way to America for 2 races and raced 1 race and did a very average time. So we're definitely back to the drawing board here in Oz.
Okay. You're right. Like you can't hide in HYROX, and if there's even like a slight underlying sickness that you didn't even know about before the race, but if it's there, it will show itself during the race. It's and if you've got the flu, you just can't perform your best during something like that, can you?
Oh man, I knew I had it. I was in bed for 4 days. I didn't get out of bed for 4 straight days, and I got out of bed the day before it. And I think I was just so excited from being in America and the US and how much training we'd put in. I just didn't want to accept the fact that I was sick. I was like, no, I'm better. I'll be sweet to go out and race. But as I was warming up, I felt it in the warm up, and I thought this treadmill warm up's way harder than it needs to be. But man, look, like looking back on it, it was I'm still happy that I raced. I'm still happy that we went to America, and I feel like Nick, if you're watching this video, he could have tagged me in something. I feel like every one of Nick's photos and his whole YouTube video is just Nick and I. But that was good, man. It was just good to be there.
What do you think is possible for you, like in the nearest term in the pro division or the doubles for you and Meg, or you and a partner?
Well, I mean, the plan for Worlds this year is definitely our favorite race is the mixed pairs, like without a doubt. As in being able to race with your wife is just next level. You don't really get to experience that much in your life to be able to lock in with something with the person that you love the most in the world and actually put in the hurt locker. And I mean, I've got something to do with Meg's just a complete savage. When it comes down to racing in the pairs, you have to have someone that you can push hard with. And unfortunately, I got Meg. So the pairs race is always going to be our focus for sure. I was definitely keen to do the Elite 15 pairs with Nick Sov. He's a cracking competitor. He's definitely going to be a big name you'll see in the next couple of years because he's quite young. He's just getting better and better in the sport. And he's very good at pairs with a bit of rest. So I wanted to do Elite 15 pairs with Nick, but I mean, I took that opportunity away from us in Melbourne. I tried to race sick, and that was the first race I've ever had to pull out of. Just wasn't having it. But you asked the question, what's possible? Look, Elite 15 is still definitely something that both Meg and I are gunning towards. But we'll just see how the season goes. Like right now, I haven't recovered from pneumonia. I've been trying to get back into training since I got back, and that was over a month ago. And man, I'm still finding it really, really hard to get back into things. So I've actually just taken the foot off the pedal with a lot of races and ideas and plans we had coming up. And I just want to try and get 100% better before I start to really ramp the training back up again. So at this stage, we've qualified for Worlds I've qualified for the men's pairs with Nick, just in the non-Elite 15 pairs. and the mixed pairs with Meg. And that for myself, if I'm feeling right, I'm feeling ready. If I can have another crack at getting the shot for the Elite 15 this year, that'd be the goal. But I'm only going to be doing it if I know I can put the right block in.
Okay. What is your training like? Like in terms of like how much running are you doing? Like and how much is that swayed towards like zone 2 versus high intensity versus threshold type thing? What does your training look like?
I mean, what sort of period are you looking at? As in, it's always different depending on the time of the season. Are you talking like pre-race, or are you talking about the build phase, or?
Yeah, let's say 8 weeks out from a race. What would it be like?
Okay, it's a good question. 8 weeks out from the race, yeah, I'm really trying to get the longest distance run I'll do in the week would be an hour and a half, would be 90 minutes maximum up to 2 hours. So I'd like to do at least one of those runs a week where I'm running anywhere between 90 minutes to 120 minutes. And that's between zone 2 to zone 3. And then other than that, it's a good mix between compromise. Coming in 8 weeks close to a comp, I'm not doing that many just straight running sessions. Outside of that, I do like a hills or a threshold session that's straight running. And then outside of that, it's always going to be combined with some sort of compromise running. So if it's on the track session, it'll be lunges into a sets and finish with burpees and air squats and things like that, because like my strength is running. So I don't necessarily need to do that much more straight running. The area that I've got the most amount of room to work on is my compromised. So where Meg's insane at quick time recovery. Like for example, the burpees are my hardest station. You just get smashed on it. So yeah, I'm focusing more so on running within compromised movements as opposed to doing straight running. But yeah, during the week I'll do 8 weeks out, I'll be up to a 2 hour. I'll be doing a 2 hour run at a zone 2, maybe sometimes pushing to a zone 3. And then I'd do a threshold session during the week where it's just straight running, and I'd flog it during that session. Like I'd really push it, whether that's a fartlek or a tempo session or something on the track. And then I'm still going to be doing 3 more running sessions throughout the week. Like I'm typically doing around 5 running focus sessions throughout the week, but the other 3 are going to have some sort of heavily compromised session involved in that as well.
Okay. And are you doing like strength stuff separately from those at other times as well? Or
yeah. So throughout the week, I really think it's important to do just having a straight strength session. As in, I like going to the gym and just doing straight strength on upper body and then straight strength on lower body. I know that a lot of people are trying to get compromised in on every single session, but I'm just a big believer in there's sessions in the week where you should be pushing hard, and there's sessions during the week you should be tactical and focus on the movements and focus on the reps and the weights that you're doing. So yeah, it's very easy to overtrain in the sport. It's very easy to get nervous before you come into a race and just think, I've just got to increase the volume and every session has to be an intensity. Like we don't do many HYROX sims. Like we'll only do those at a baseline or to see how we're going halfway through a season. But no, we don't. I'm not sitting there relying on doing a sim every 3rd week to see, am I improving every 3 weeks?
Mm-hmm. Okay. How about your mindset during a race when things are tough, or like those tough running sessions? Where does your mind go to help you push on in those situations?
Good question. I just think gratitude plays such a big part of my life. I've got so much to be grateful for. I think people can get so caught up in making everything about themselves. I think it's one of the greatest things I love about Christianity and following Jesus is that you're not the main character in your life. And so just when times get tough, I always like to draw back on all the great things that I have going on. Like the reason why I'm there in the first place is that like I'm here to see what I'm capable of. So if I stop now, well then I'm defeating the point of even being here in the first place. And then you just think that if you just keep pushing yourself and just keep getting yourself to new limits and new levels, it's like you can help so many people with the things that you uncover mentally with that. And so I just always bring it back to the same reason of like, why am I here in the first place? It's I really just want to see like how capable I truly am. How far can I actually push myself? And like, if you're not going all in, what's the point? I rock up to every race knowing the race is going to hurt. I go to every session knowing the session is going to hurt. And it's more so about, all right, I've now finally hit that point in the session where it does really hurt. It's like, well, then what am I actually capable of here? Because only you, and I mean, if you're a believer in God, like you and God will know what happened in that session. You can tell everyone all the excuses in the book, like I had the flu or I had pneumonia or my calf gave out or whatever logical excuse that you want to make. But I think when it gets really hard, I just think about like how grateful I am to even be there on the day, to even be running, to doing what I'm doing, because it's you're definitely like the 1% of the 1% of 1% of the world that even get to be on that track doing that session that day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I heard you say on another podcast a couple of times that laziness doesn't exist. What does can you explain that some more? What do you mean by that?
That's a great topic. I'm stoked you asked that question. So I don't think people lack discipline, and I don't think people are lazy. I think what they lack is application and accountability. And so the best example I can use for that is myself, is that I guess hate's a strong word. I used to really dislike going to the gym before HYROX, before anything like that. I just didn't see the point of it. I just thought, why would anyone go to the gym and just lift weights? That just seems so silly just to go there all the time. Like not just for the general health benefits, for the people that actually were going beyond just the health benefits to try and get performance. I was thinking, I just don't understand how people can enjoy going to the gym every day and lifting weights. And then, so it's like, well, then someone could say, well, then Will's lazy or Will lacks discipline in the gym. But then as soon as HYROX came around and we tried HYROX, and I thought, wow, this is such a sick sport. I want to see what I'm capable of in this space. I started to love the gym, and I love the gym now. The gym hasn't changed. Nothing about the gym has changed, but my application towards the gym has changed. Man, I'm there every session. I'm there on time. I'm there doing the best warm-up drills I can possibly do. I'm not going through any of the motions. I'm thinking of every squat. I'm thinking of every lunge, every curl, every bench press, everything I'm doing in the gym. And all that changed was my application. And then also when you have accountability, I feel like they're the two most important words you should be leaning on in life. If you're not sure where you're going, is do you have the application to actually want to see something through or to even want to get started? And then do you have the accountability to keep going? And the accountability could come from yourself, could come from a loved one, could come from the public or whatever it is. So yeah, I actually don't think that people are lazy. I really think that they lack application. And if you give anyone a task that they don't see the real application towards it, then you can fob off anyone as being lazy. So I feel like, yeah, if you're struggling in life and you think that you're a lazy person, or if you think that you're a person that lacks discipline, look at what you're doing, and just 9 out of 10's answer is going to be is that you don't even like what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
The application is wrong. And then maybe the people that you have around you aren't keeping you accountable to a level that they should be.
Okay. Love it. Tell me about Meg. So you met Meg through running, basically. I want to say through a running club, but it wasn't really. It was like the formation of a running club, right? And then you grew from there.
Yeah, it's funny. When people say they met their partners on Instagram, I'm like, that's so strange. But then I met my partner on Instagram, right? But for some reason, I don't see it that way. As in, I saw my brother showed me a photo of Meg on Instagram, and it was a photo of her finishing one of her 10K runs. And it was back then, she called it 10K Sunday. And I was just so impressed that a girl was out there running every Sunday 10K. I'd never seen that before. This was before run clubs. This is before running was cool. This was, I mean, there maybe was like one run club on the Gold Coast, and it was more older people focusing on marathons. And I just shot her a message, and obviously she was good looking, which also helped. But I was more so impressed with the fact that there was a girl who wanted to run 10K every Sunday. And so I shot her a message and said, hey, this is really cool. Do you want to go for a run sometime? Because I had a house on the coast, and I was down there every weekend. So, and I was living in Brisbane at the time. And then we caught up and went for a run. And my second favorite topic to talk about really is when someone has a spark about them, and they say, look, I don't really know what I'm doing with my life, but I know that I want to do more than what I'm doing now. I love that conversation. I love like helping people, like mapping out the next few steps, or giving people the spark to think like I can actually do more with myself. And that was the exact conversation I had with Meg. She was studying physio at the time, and she was looking to be a vet. She wasn't loving it. She was super smart. She had a very strong background in schools, got great grades. But she just said, I know I'm destined for more than this, but I'm just not loving it. What do you think I should do? And I just gave her a couple of things. Just said, look, buy this book, do these 3 steps and see how you go from there. And we had a really good run. And then I called her 2 days later. I said, hey, I really enjoyed the run. Let's go for a run next week. She said, yeah, let's do it. Also, I bought that book. I'm 7 chapters deep. I've done these 3 things. I've done these 5 more things. Now I'm here. What do I do next? And it's just so refreshing being around people who want to do better for themselves, because it's easy to have a conversation with someone, get hyped up in the moment and do nothing about it. But that was the difference with Meg, was that she said something, she actually meant it and did something about it. And so then we started running together on the weekends, and then we had no plans. It was just, she said one weekend, hey, I've got 2 friends that want to join us. I got 2 friends that want to join too. Then that weekend it was 6 people. Then the following weekend after that was when 2 people that we didn't know showed up, and it was off Meg's social media. I think Meg had like 5,000 followers back then, like something very small, and just put up a post saying, hey, if you want to join us on a run, come join. And one of the OGs was still Meg's best friend today, a girl called Lauren. She showed up, and then another girl showed up with her mum, and we just said, like, who do you guys know here? And then we just found out through social media. And then after that, man, it just exploded. As in, like 5 weeks later, there was 100+ people there every single Sunday.
Wow.
Just out there, just sending it, running 10K. But I mean, as I said before, everything in life is timing. There weren't any run clubs. It was off the back end of COVID. And man, we just got there and we were super loud. Everyone was there. It's the Gold Coast. Everyone was there with their shirts off, 5 a.m. in the morning, ready to go and try and send 10K. And man, that's how we met, and that's how the run club started.
Awesome. And now at Mega, like that was the start of Mega really, and now you're doing like training plans, but you've also got your socks as well, which you touched on earlier. What's so great about the socks?
Great question. 2 things is, it's definitely the fabric. It's the quality of the fabric and the way the socks are made is what make the socks what it is. Because when we were running ultras, we found that a lot of the equipment we were used to running, doing mega runs and shorter distance runs in, like you can run in whatever you want. You can chuck on a pair of cotton socks. You can throw it, you can throw rugby shorts on and a shirt and go for a run. It doesn't matter. Like you can put on whatever you want, any sort of shoes, and you can get through a 10K. It's not the end of the world. But then once we started running longer distances and started running 60Ks, 100Ks, 100 milers, it became very, very apparent that you cannot have bad quality equipment and try and run those distances and try and be somewhat comfortable, because all your gear just gives out and then it just reflects straight back on your body. And we just kept blowing through socks. There was 2 socks that I really like to use, but I just knew that every race I had to buy 3 pairs of socks. So if I was running 100K, I was using 3 pairs of socks, which was just wild. That's so wasteful. And so then, yeah, once we realized that we wanted to actually get into running apparel and make an apparel company and started off in running, socks was high on the list. And so we traveled around, we traveled overseas for 8 months, actually meeting all of our manufacturers and all our suppliers, and went hands-on with everything. Met over 100 companies. It was phenomenal experience. It's the only reason we're able to have what we have now was by meeting all the factories in person. Went all through Europe, went all through Asia. Yeah, it was awesome. What makes a good sock is the fact that, so long story short, what makes a good sock is that blisters come from friction and blisters come from moisture. So if you can actually treat the moisture and the friction issue, then that's what actually produces a sock that you can't guarantee no blisters at all, because someone could have a bad pair of shoes or someone's foot just might not work with the sock. But I mean, we've sold so many of these socks now. We've had 2 people come back with a blister. So it's been pretty epic. But to answer your question, is that if you can actually get the right quality fabrics or the right quality fibers, the yarns that actually make the sock, get the right compression so it sits tight enough to the foot, so that when your foot moves within the shoe, the sock sticks to the skin of your foot. And if the sock is actually moving against your foot, well, then there comes a blister. And then the second part was actually the treatment of the sock. We have this incredible treatment that gets embedded or washed through the sock during the production stages. that actually regulates the temperature of your feet, which I thought was wild when I first heard about it. And we wanted to test it, but we put it through some serious testing, and it actually keeps your feet cooler when they warm up, and it keeps your feet warmer if in really cold conditions. And so that means that the amount that you sweat in the socks is almost near none. So if you can tackle the friction issue, which we did by using really high quality yarns, get the compression right on the foot so the sock doesn't rub against the your skin, and then also massively reduce the amount of sweat your foot is producing by regulating the temperature of your feet, then all of a sudden you can run some serious Ks and not get any blisters or have any discomfort through your feet. But then the major one we wanted to address was just that people have bad smelling feet. And like we're training twice a day now. So we didn't want to be going through, 2 pairs of socks, 2 pairs of shirts, 2 pairs of shorts every single day. Like you got to have a whole stack of equipment for that. And so then the last treatment that we actually put through the socks was one called Mint. And it's a plant-based technology, and your socks literally don't smell. As in, we're just about to release a documentary now called 31 Marathons. And it's a mate of ours on the Gold Coast, Nick McKay, did 31 marathons in 31 days. And he wore the same pair of socks every single day for every marathon. He washed them once on day 8 when he cut his foot on a leaf and bled into the sock, and just zero blisters, zero smell, same pair of socks for the whole 31 days. And it's just, yeah, like even we're stoked with how hard they've been able to be pushed and haven't been able to be broken yet. So yeah, we're so happy with how the socks have come out, but it's obviously set a very high bar for the rest of for the rest of the collection line, which will be out within the next few months.
Okay, awesome. I just want to. This has been great. I just want to finish up with a few questions we typically finish up on. The first being, what's been your best ever sporting experience?
I feel like Meg would have me if I didn't say Worlds. You know what? Winning our age group for Worlds was pretty epic. It didn't actually hit me at all after the race, as in at all. Like we won, we finished. I think it was also because we got COVID just before we raced, which again, it happens. And so when we raced, we were both pretty sick. And so we weren't in that race, like in the field dominating the race, as in we were just like hanging on, like this is way harder than it needs to be. And so when we finished the race, we were just so spent that I don't think we got to appreciate what actually happened. And we got the awards at the end. It was all really, really well put on. But it actually wasn't until we walked down the road, we sat at some dinner place, and I was there with Meg, our photographer, and an Australian guy called Steve Maharik. And I was halfway through the burger, and then it just hit me. I was like, yo, we just won Worlds. And then it hit me then. And so that feeling, I still remember now. That was a very cool feeling in sport. But man, my main sport is big mountain skiing. I love skiing. I've skied in Japan almost every year of my life since I was 10, missed this season and the one before. And mate, when you're coming down a run and the snow is bottomless, do you ski?
No, I have done that when I was a kid, but like not much at all.
Okay, right. So it's hard. It'd be like describing a surfer who gets a barrel in a wave. Like when you come down and the snow is bottomless and you're hitting airs and you're hitting jumps and you're landing the biggest tricks you can put down. Like, yeah, there's been a few days skiing that you just like, there's nothing can top that. So, but definitely, I think the common denominator there is always having someone to do it with. So all the memories I can think about in sport, whether it was skiing, whether it was surfing over in Fiji or Hawaii, or winning Worlds with Meg, it always comes out. I think that always rings true is like you're actually at the pinnacle of your physical abilities, and then also you're there doing it with someone you can share it with. So I'd say, yeah, Worlds will probably be the one that sticks closest to mine because it was the most recent. But Matt, there's definitely been some days skiing and some days surfing that are definitely up there.
Nice. How about your toughest sporting experience?
Well, man, as I said before, I think the most pain I've ever been in was in a race was at Dallas. But I was just gone. I've never finished a race and fallen over at the end before, like just like collapsed, and I crossed the line in Dallas and like hit the deck. So that was but I think the race that I always look back on, like there's always races that you didn't do your best in. and it was the first time I did a Spartan race years ago, and it was just a really hot day. And this is before we knew about nutrition and hydration. And I just didn't drink enough or eat enough in the race. It was a 20, I think it was like a 20 or a 30K race with 30 obstacles. It's like a Spartan beast. And I just remember in that race, I was racing it with Meg. And I reckon I just gave up in the race. And I haven't been like that since I was a little kid. But whenever I'm in a tough session or if ever I'm racing and it's just not going that well, I feel like that day always pops back up. And I just think I just never want to finish a race and look back and think mentally I just tapped. I just thought like I don't even know what I'm doing here. This race sucks. And so I just never want to feel like that again. So I definitely I think the most I've hurt was in the Dallas. Have you heard of Point to Pinnacle? It's the world's toughest half marathon.
Don't think so. No.
Yeah, it's a race in Tasmania. Tim and Kim, legends. They're the owners of it. They've been doing it. I think it's coming up on their 30th year. I think it's their 30th year coming up. It's 21 kilometers up a mountain on road. And from K10 onwards, there's not a single meter of flat. Everything is up. Everything is up. Like every meter is up. Before Dallas, that was some of the best Hurt Locker I've ever been in. But yeah, looking back, Dallas, Point to Pinnacle, and then just not being in it mentally in the Spartan that day. That are three things that definitely stick out.
Okay. What's the best piece of advice someone's given you or you've discovered while training for HYROX?
I mean, like the best piece of advice, generally, James Newbury hit it to Meg and I right before we took off in our first ever HYROX in Melbourne was don't go out too hard. It seems so simple, but people just seem to forget it. You just look at all these people just go out and just send the first K. Meg and I, well, before we took off, we just said, whoever wants to run out hard, just let them all go. And, we had about 8 couples just punch it from the start. And then it's a marathon. It's a high intensity marathon is how I describe HYROX. And so the most consistent person is typically going to do the best in any race. So that would be the advice. I think if that's just my general advice. I think if you're competing at a high level in HYROX, if you're competing to race just for the sport, you've missed the point. Like you've got to know a deeper reason why you're actually showing up to race. Like you have to have a deeper meaning or a deeper reason, or else it just seems like it's just a bit empty if you're out there just doing it for yourself, for your own accolades. There's definitely some people in the sport that you watch that they're in it for the right reasons. They got a good heart about it, and they're definitely out there inspiring a lot of people. So I think that's advice if you're at the top of the sport. And then if you're just doing it for the first time, just having fun, just it only comes around so few times in the year. And obviously, I'm going to plug our programs here, but you're going to have so much more fun on the day if you follow a program leading into the actual race day, and then on race day going out and doing a time that you're stoked with. As in, you see so many people that go up and follow a program, they have the best race, they have the best day, they had all the pointers, they knew what to do, and they just went out and they did a time better than they thought they were going to do. And then you've seen other people who just want to rock up and just send it and put their own stuff together. And they just always seem to be disappointed after they leave. And it's not many people have the opportunity just to bounce around the world and just hit a whole stack of races. As in, if you're from Brisbane, you get one shot and then the race is gone. So yeah, that'd be the general advice. Don't go out too hot. You don't get any chance to bring it back other than slowing down. If you're at the top, do it for a bigger reason than racing. And then just for everyone else is if you want to have the best day possible, follow a program in your training.
Okay. Nice. And then finally, if you could plant one idea or piece of advice in the mind of everyone listening, and it could be anything, what would it be?
It's a good question. I mean, there's one obvious answer for me is I wasn't a believer 6 months ago. I didn't know who Jesus was. I didn't know what Christianity was about. I just had this very warped perception of what it was. And I looked at other people and how they were doing it. And I thought, well, if that's how they're practicing it, and I just had this whole idea that most people have, they follow mainstream media and I think that religion's just this bad thing. I think before 6 months would have had a very different answer, but my answer would be as whether you want to use it for understanding who Jesus is or the Bible or anything in life, it's do the research for yourself. Don't look to other people as a source of information if something's going to be good or bad, because humans are the reasons why why things do go wrong. And if you're only ever looking to other people as to the reason why to do something, you're going to be completely jaded by that person. So if you're thinking of doing anything in your life, or if you want to have a firm idea of something or what something actually is, don't just listen to what other people are saying. Go do the research for yourself. Go find out what it is and question everything. As in, how many times in your life are you so sure about something and then you realize you're completely wrong? Like most things in life that you're so sure of turn out to be wrong anyway. So it's just like do the research yourself. If you're interested in pursuing something, like look into it for yourself. Don't just take the advice and the word of others, because you'd be missing out on a whole lot without actually looking to find out what something truly is, as opposed to what people are just saying it is, because most people in life don't have positive agendas.
Okay. Awesome.
Which sounds a bit dark and gloom, but I mean, that's if I could leave one piece of advice to everyone, it would be that'd be it.
Okay. Well, this has been amazing. Thank you so much. What are your race plans? You got any in the calendar?
The next race plan was Brisbane. But again, I've just got to get back into training properly. I think that where I went, where I got a bit undone last year was just we had so many races booked. And so you're always trying to get the squeeze the race block in to suit the races. Whereas now I'm doing the training block to then go and suit a race. So right now, the next race that I had on the cards was Brisbane. But I mean, it's only 6 weeks away or 5.5 weeks away. And at this stage, I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to race just yet. So I don't have an answer for that one. But ideally, you'll see us racing in Brisbane.
Okay. If people want to follow you, find out more about you and what you're doing with Mega and everything, where should they go?
I'm not very active on social media. So if you follow my page, you're not going to see too much. I actually think the best place, follow Meg. Jump on to Meg Sutherland. She's always posting at the two of us and what we're up to with our races. So definitely follow Meg. If you want to know more about the training programs, the app we've just launched, check out Train to Go Squad. And then for all the running apparel, so the socks and everything else that's about to be released, just released journals. We've got towels and hats coming out next, which are very, very close to being dropped. That's on This Is Mega.
Okay, awesome. All right, lovely. Thank you, mate. Appreciate it.
I got a question. I feel like no one asks you questions. I feel like I got a question for you before you go. You've spoken to a lot of HYROX athletes. What's been the number one thing you've picked up from speaking with all these athletes?
Oh, man, that's hard to say. I mean, one thing is like there is no one set way of training for HYROX. That's clear. Even like with the top guys, like the variance between just, Lauren Weeks just used to do zone 2 stuff and then CrossFit on top for the intensity. And then other people like Ronkovic might do a lot more intensity in their training. Like the differences in training are very different. It's even hard to see similarities between some of them people, like in terms of their personality traits and everything like that. I think one thing that they do is like they'll say yes to doing events at the drop of a hat. So like Lauren's doing 100-kilometer run straight after Vegas.
Yeah.
And like I've noticed like the top people will do things like that without really putting much thought into it. Whereas even if I'm judging myself, like to do something like that, I'd be like overthink it. Can I train for it? How's it going to affect my train? How's it going to make me feel? Blah, 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 blah. Whereas like I know people like that will do it at the drop of a hat. Like Graham Halliday told me, like I think he broke some bones in his foot because he just wasn't ready to do something like that, but he did it anyway. So that's like one overarching theme that I've noticed. People like, and even like you guys, like you go and do 100K and you do this, you know, that half marathon up the mountain and things like that. It's just like,
Yeah.
it's not just like the HYROX training. It's that like I think you're all willing to say yes to things that maybe are a little crazy.
I got to say that that's an interesting point. I just don't feel like the sports come anywhere close to being at its peak with talent because, and this might ruffle a few feathers, but look at any other sport around the world that's much more established than HYROX. As in, the top athletes aren't doing that. The top athletes aren't dipping off to do another event.
I know.
They're not doing it like they are just. If you look at Jakob Ingebrigtsen, love the dude. Shoot, I love that guy as a runner. He's not dropping out and doing HYROX. He's not going out and doing an ultra race or doing some row across the ocean. As in, I feel like the sport's got so much to grow in terms of times. Like, mate, the sub 50's got to get smashed, as in it will get smashed. And I just feel like there's so many more athletes that haven't even seen the sport that are about to come into the sport to take it to whole new levels. Because, yeah, I think that if people at the top, and mate, I put my hand up, like, including myself, and I'm not even at the top, are going out and ducking between different disciplines and different industries of sports. It's like, you watch, there'll be a wave of people that'll come through that all they'll do is HYROX and their
Mm.
whole year is HYROX and their whole sport is HYROX and the whole commitment is the one sport. And I think once we start to see that, we'll start to see a lot of the top end like really flesh out and have some significant depth in the sport. And maybe people that are at the top will have to reconsider doing 100K races and rowing challenges and hiking mountains and things like that, because to be at the sport, you'd have to commit yourself 100%.
I agree, and I think it's happening less now, especially in season, and I think people are like specializing a lot more and even like giving up their jobs to focus on HYROX and everything like that. And maybe my like comment was a little bit generalized in like people have done that in their past and everything. I know Lauren's going to do it after Vegas, but
Yeah.
uh,
But I mean, you gotta
like,
do what makes you happy, right? As in that's the thing, isn't like if training full time for one sport isn't going to get you fully stoked, then like there's no point in doing that because if you win at all costs, you're not going to be happy. It's you got to win on all levels. And if that's what's stoking your fire, if that's you pushing your limits, then there's no point in committing yourself full time to something just to go out and get a gold medal because man, you know this, there's a lot of gold medalists out there that get those things and are very empty. So
mhm.
it's not just like you can't just think that it's just about winning because too many professional athletes have proven to everyone that winning is not everything. You can go and get that gold medal and come out and be very lonely, very sad, and very depressed. So yeah, you definitely need to know who you are as a person and what's actually important to you. And if going and running 100K, then go for gold. But it was more so as in it was more of a comment of like the sport's got a long way to go,
Yeah.
which is so exciting. The fact that it hasn't even scratched the surface and like massive, massive props to the owners of HYROX. We met the owners, we've met the people that are running APAC. It's a serious operation that they've put on. And for people that haven't been in events before or had construction businesses or businesses at all, you have no idea how much work goes into putting on even one event. And they're putting on events now every single weekend all over the world with all different teams, with thousands of bits of equipment. It's wild. I've got one more question before you go. I'm going to put you in the hot spot here. Who do you think is going to win here? Who's going to win? Who's your pick for Elite 15 men and women? Who
Oh
are you putting
man,
your money
that's
on?
uh, it's hard to say. It's hard to
Come
say.
on, Greg. No, you can say it though. Come on, man.
If I had to put my money, I'd say Ronkovic on the men's side, and I
Oh,
would
come on. Okay.
say um, I would say Lauren probably on the women, but Lauren, but I think Joanna Wetrick could do it as well.
Man, there's a lot of talent coming through. There's people that are coming through that don't even have any names that are coming out and posting some
Yeah,
crazy things. As in, I think this year is going to be a big shake up. But mate, I love that you put your money on Alex. I'm a big fan. I met Alex. He's a really nice guy.
yeah, he's a top guy.
He's definitely about it.
Yeah, yeah. How about you? Who would you put your money on?
In the women's, I've got no idea. As in, like, who knows what's going to happen with. The thing is, I'm not really up to date on socials either. I spend not much time, so I don't even know where everyone's at in their seasons and what times they're posting. I couldn't even tell you in the women's. I've got no idea. But I think in the men's, I think uh, I think Hunter is an animal. I think he's very committed to what he does. I think that he realized that he overtrained last year, and I think he's going to come back with a whole different mindset to this year. And that he's definitely capable of putting down some phenomenal times. And he's got the background, like he has the background of a cross country runner. That is what I think is the best background you could ever have in HYROX. Is you have to have a strong background in running. Well, not have to, sorry, but it definitely helps a lot if you're building off a background of running and coming into strength, which he's got. But man, I love Alex. I think he's just got a heart of gold. He's definitely doing it all for the right reasons. Yeah, he's if I had to put my money on it, oh, dude, I think Alex. I reckon Alex has got it.
Okay. I think we should see another amazing race again this season, like we saw a good one last year. And there's obviously JK and then maybe Sandy. There's a lot of good guys that could give us an amazing race again this season. So it's exciting times.
I tell you who's got it is Paleo. As in, I've speaking and knowing Paleo, I've never met someone so calculated in training before. That guy really knows what he's talking about. And I just feel that every year he's just going to keep getting better. He's going to keep getting better and better. One of the nicest guys I've ever met. Just a great heart. But it's in terms of like, he's an engineer and he's a triathlete and he applies his engineering mind into the sport of training and his application to the sport. I've never seen anyone like Paleo, and I just feel like no one should ever write Paleo off. I think he's got as good a chance as anyone of coming out and actually winning the category this year. So I think, but I'm also biased because Paleo and Alex love the socks. So I always want to see the guy who's going to win be repping the socks. So it's there's definitely a bit of bias there as well. But I think look. I think it's going to come down. If I had to pick a top three, which would be easier for me to say, I think it'd be Paleo, I think it'd be Ronkovic, and I think it'd be Hunter.
Okay. Solid picks.
But I feel like we've just ruffled some feathers. So let's get the podcast out. Let's get I won't see it because I don't spend any time on socials, but I'm sure it's going to it'll get there and ruffle some feathers.
All right. This has been fantastic. Thank you, mate. Appreciate it.
Yeah, great meeting you, man. Thanks so much.
And you.